Guys, Bretonnia looks cool. And as someone who hates horses and loves gunpowder, that is the last thing I ever thought I would say on this channel. Hello! I am so glad that you could be here today. May as well jump into it. No reason to keep everyone waiting. Lady Elise Ducard, who rides on a unicorn spreading, I don't know, rainbows and freedom, whatever the French do. And remember that she's a lady, not the lady. That's an important distinction in Bretonnia. Look, this model isn't for me, I don't like this model, but what the model is trying to do, I think it does really, really well. And I'm glad it exists for the people who like this kind of model, if that makes sense. I'm glad to see that this model that is fair maiden riding a unicorn didn't get toned down or turned grimdark or edgy for the sake of appeal. On top of that, the actual movement within the model itself is absolutely fantastic. And I also think this model does a great job of striking a balance between being detailed but not being over-designed like a lot of newer Warhammer stuff has been. I know it sounds weird, but I'm glad to see that Games Workshop felt the need to give the Bretonnia fans what they wanted and not, compromise it for the sake of brand appeal. I also want to add a quick reminder to subscribe, like, or comment if, and only if, you like the video and you want to see more like it, because it does help the channel a lot. But now we're moving on to some models that I do like. The Knights of the Realm on foot. God, these are cool. The Knights of the Realm outclass every other human infantry unit that Games Workshop has put out in recent months. And yes, that does include the Cadia Stands box. These models are so cool. I love them. I also want to touch on one specific change that I don't think is necessarily, maybe not relevant, but I like talking about individual good choices. So if we take one of the Knights of the Realm, put it next to a Space Marine, for instance, you'll notice the lack of the big heavy shoulder pauldrons and a lot of the more rounded areas on the armor. They smoothed a lot of those out for these Bretonnian Knights, and I wanted to comment and say that I'm glad they did that. Because even though it does remove a lot of flat sections, they're less bulky, which means they can convey a lot more movement while still being, jacked. I'm not saying this to try to shit on Space Marine and say that their big pauldrons make them better or worse, but since I complain so much about dudes in heavy armor, and yet I'm here saying how much I love these dudes in heavy armor, I want to point out a specific choice they made, and by they I mean GW, that made these men in armor look unique and full of movement. Genuinely incredible stuff. I'm not sure I could even say more than that. It's just, these units. But before you think I only care about the big boys, joke's on you, my next favorite unit is going to be the Men-at-Arms. Not that this list was in any particular order in the first place, I guess. Bretonnia's Men-at-Arms basically do everything the Steel Helms tried to do, but better. I complained that Cities of Sigmar's peasant unit was just boring and lackluster, which it is, but being dirty, diseased, poorly trained, and even more poorly armed actually is the point of the Men-at-Arms for Bretonnia, and they lean into it really, really well, while also managing to still look fierce, look like they are going into a battle. To the point that if I buy a Cities of Sigmar army, I'd probably just buy these instead and put them on round bases. I love the scattershot mixture of helmets and armor. I love how their weapons literally look like plowshares beaten into swords. I will say though, I do think if they're gonna have female knights, they should also have women in the peasant units. Probably in greater number, or at least a few options. That's just my thought. It's just in that it makes logical sense. I do also really like the monks, and I love how you can tell which ones they are because they're fatter than the regular peasants. I'd love to get a full unit of battle monks if that's ever possible. Or battle nuns would also be cool, and not even necessarily a first for Warhammer, but would also be cool, so if they ever get the chance to do that, I'd like to see it. And I guess on that note, there is one sort of battle nun in this roster. The Handmaiden of the Lady. And that's the lady, not a lady. That's an important distinction in Bretonnia. Much like Elise, this model just conveys power and energy and movement while doing very, very little. I don't know, it has good fundamentals, I guess is the best way I could describe it. I think it's really good, although maybe it is a little too much like the Cairn Wraith. But in order to close out, we gotta go back to where this all started, with the original Bretonnian paladin on foot, and God, this model still slaps. Again, it's just simple and elegant. Does it convey as much movement as previous models? No. And it doesn't need to, because sometimes a model can convey everything it needs to by just being still. Sometimes just the confidence to take up space is all that a hero needs to do to tell you everything about him. And I think that's awesome. It's just, again, simple elegance. And it just so happens that models with simple movement are also great for kit bashing, which I personally am a big fan of. You guys know I love kit bashing on this channel. Maybe I'll replace the orc head with a Tyrannid just for kicks, or I could swap out the helmets, turn a Bretonnian into a Brentalorian. I think Bretonnia just turned out so well. Like, I really just wanted to make this video to say, good job, GW. Like, holy shit, these models just look so good. But do you guys agree or disagree? Are you mad that I forgot to put a single model on horseback on this list? Of course, because I didn't realize that until I finished the script. I look forward to seeing what you guys say down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And I will see you in the next one.